Hi there, I'm Kay, and today I'm going to be walking you through all the puzzles and secrets in Act 3 of Inscryption. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to look at is the moving tiles of cards. So these are the exact same as they were in Act 1, except this time they're techno. So if you're anything like me, you're not going to even try to bother with logic and you're just going to brute force it. But, lucky for you, you don't have to, because I have the solutions right here for both of these. The one on the right gives you the Lonely Wizbot card, and the one on the left gives you Mrs. Bomb's Remote, which turns all empty spaces on the board into bombs when used. However, you can't actually do this until you get to the second waypoint where the tablet dies, because before that, PO3 won't let you get it from the table. Next up, we're going to do the Cuckoo Clock, which is where we find two things: a hint for later on in the game, and the Ourobot card. Now, you're not supposed to get the Ourobot card until later on in the game, when you get the hint, but you can get it early on in the game as long as you know this. So we're going to start off by getting up from the table and going over to the wall on our left, and the Cuckoo Clock will appear, as pictured here. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn the clock hands to 11 o'clock. And this will give you the hint for later. Next, what you want to do is you want to turn the hands on the clock to 4, and that will give you the Ourobot card. Normally, the Ourobot card is supposed to have the same health and damage as it did in Act 2, but because I'm just loading up this part of the game on a PC I've never actually played Act 2 on before, its stats are 1-1. Now I know that these are really easy, but next we're going to do the puzzles in the next room to get the battery for the tablet. The first one is really simple, it's just turning a sigil until it's the right way around. Now the second one is a little bit harder. Sometimes it's hard to decipher what's going on, but you need to select all the tiles that have cards in them. And these are the same every time for everyone who plays the game. And we're going to go over here and we're going to grab the battery from where it is. And after you've solved the puzzles, you can go over to this little chest over here, and that will give you the Fishbot card. Next, I'm going to walk you through the second set of puzzles that are in the smelter room. The smelter room is unlocked when you enter Gaudy Gem Land, because you don't have the gem attachment. This box flashing Morse code is important to lore, but I don't know Morse code, and I haven't looked at any lore stuff, so I don't know what that's about, but I'm sure it's something important. Also, when I went back to try and get more footage of it, it was gone, so I really don't know what the deal with it is. Anyway, back to the puzzles. So the first puzzle, you select applicable emotions for situations. Propaganda. Next up is math, which is not my strong suit, so it's sped up a lot because I needed a lot of time to think. But the solutions are 12, 4, and 11. You don't have to struggle through math like I did. Now this next puzzle is identifying sigils, and the answers to this one are the shield sigil, the moving sigil, which is the 1 arrow one, as opposed to the bifurcated sigil, which is 2 arrows. And the third one is the swap sigil, which is 2 arrows, one pointing left, one pointing right. So after that, you just take the gem attachment back to PO3 and he hooks it in, and you have gems now. So this is the part that those hints from earlier were for. Once you get to PO3's area of the game, you'll be given the chance to make a card. Normally, if you were doing this the normal way, and not looking up a guide on how to do it, you would make the exact card shown right by the printer. You can name it whatever you want, it just has to have the same stats and sigils. And then that gives you the bifurcated strike sigil. So you need 3 sigils for this puzzle. You need the sigil from the Cuckoo clock, the sigil that showed up on the printer after you made the card, and this isn't pictured here because I can't get the hang of it, but there's a sigil on things behind the photographer in the inspection room, and you're supposed to be able to use the flash to see the sigil, but I can't do it, so I'm just gonna tell you it's a skull and crossbones. There he is, there's the goop guy. So we're gonna put in the sigils on the pillar next to him. And that's gonna lead us to something not necessary for the game, but it's very interesting and fun. I love it, personally. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fight the secret boss of Act 3. So, first things first, if you aren't already there, you're gonna want to go to the Eastern Botopia waypoint. Hover your mouse over the bottom right corner and an arrow will appear. If you performed all 4 of the Mycologist experiments in Act 2, you'll have the key to this lock right here. If you got the key in Act 2, just click on the lock and the door will open, and you'll be able to go through. From there, a fight will start. Now, the important thing to know about this fight is that it has an interesting mechanic you've never encountered before. So, the opponent's row of cards, they all move inward toward the middle, each turn he has. Just like I'm showing on screen here. And when there's 2 cards on either side of the card in the middle, and they move, they combine into one beast of a card that has all the stats and sigils and abilities as the 3 cards that combined. Luckily, eventually in the fight, he also does this for your cards too, and you get to keep the card after you win. Now there is also a little nugget of lore of the old data that I don't really understand, but it's here. I can recognize that, and I'll leave the geniuses to figure it out. I really recommend fighting the Mycologist at some point while you're playing, because it gives you an absolutely OP card in the end, and this is mine in action. Next up, we're going to go over another thing that's relying on getting a key in Act 2, the Bone Lord. You can get this key in Act 2 by playing both halves of the Ancient Obol cards next to each other, which forms an Ancient Obol. You then go to Grimora's Crypt and give the Obol to the Bone Lord. He gives you the key and tells you to find him later. You find the Bone Lord in Act 3 by going into Grimoire's area and then going all the way to the room on the right. From there you go up, and that brings you to a lock, which of course you know what to do with that. You click on the lock and the key opens it.
What the fuck, man?
Next up, Holo Pelts. There's one pelt in every major area except for the technology area. You buy the first pelt from the shop, then, as you're exiting the shop, go to the left, then click on the hidden arrow to go down. That's where the second pelt is. The third pelt is in Lushy's area. Go to the right, then go up until you can't anymore. Click on the hidden arrow to go right. The fourth pelt is in Grimoire's crypt. Go into the first room, then go left until you hit an area where you trade cards with PO3. The pelt is behind that. The fifth pelt is in the magic area. In the first space, go right twice, then down once. Click on the hidden arrow to go right. To get to the trader, you need to go immediately to the left once you enter PO3's factory in Botopia. This leads you to another lock, but you don't need a key this time. Just click on the lock, and once you've heard the sound cue, get up, go to the room on your left. The door will be open. And now by giving the trader Holo Pelts, you get hints about the lore. Some of these I understand, some of these I don't, so I'm not even gonna bother explaining. If you want to know, go look at a video on the lore. After you defeat the Archivist, some of Luke's personal files end up strewn about the game. These files mostly detail his sister's death and his memories of her. With these files, we get a little more insight into who our main protagonist is. Now for the end of the video, here's some more interesting tidbits I found. So in the game, there's bounty hunters, and they've got some funky little names. But today, for the first time, I noticed that one of them had Casey in its name, which is interesting, and then later on I saw another one that had Hobbs in its name, which is strange. I don't know if it was because I was ignoring it the first time, or if it actually just wasn't there, but things are named after Casey. I also found it really interesting just how much foreshadowing there was to Leshy Grimoire and Magnificus being in the dredging room. Because, like, that just comes out of left field when you're playing the game, but, like, looking back, knowing that that happens, there's a lot of foreshadowing. Now, this one isn't really interesting information, but I'm kind of mad that PO3 called me a stupid gamer. That hurts a little. Anyway, that's all from me for today, so I'll be seeing you next time I upload a video. Bye!